Section 1.3 of the Security Plus Domain 1 talks about change management. What is change management? Why is it important? Part of the answer is already in the name, and for the syllabus, this is what we are going to talk about. So, business processes impacting security operations. Why is it needed? What are some implications? And how can you document change management? Before we get into change management, quick intro about security policies. Security policies provide a foundation for implementing security practices in an organization. And they are documents that outline the approach to security. What are you going to do to achieve your security? How are you going to do it? Why are you doing it? What are some implications? So they serve as a guide for decision making. And you have a few policies like acceptable use policies, access control policies, change management, and a few others that we will talk about in domain 5, I believe. So here we have change management. What is change management? It is a policy that organizations follow to control changes to their IT systems, as simple as that. So the goal here is to ensure that any modifications are done in a controlled manner to encourage accountability. If you modified a piece of code, we know that you did this. If James modified, a code in line 50 that disrupted the entire thing, we know that James did that. But we can also revert to the previous version before James damaged that. And we can do this, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. So change management requires a formal and approval process. You have to request a change, it has to be reviewed, it has to be approved. For example, someone trying to modify software code at Spotify, for example. Imagine the modified code and it deletes all the music entirely at Spotify. That's bad, that's dangerous. So there has to be a process, a formal process to request a change, for it to be approved, for it to be tracked, for there to be a version control to revert to a previous version. And let's look at some of the important parts of change management process. So the approval process is very important. It's necessary to obtain approval before implementing a change. You request and there is a board that approves because they can obviously deny. It's not because you ask that it's going to be approved. Ownership are individuals and groups responsible to oversee changes. Stakeholders are all the entities that have an interest in the outcome of a change. So you have the employees, you have the managers. For our Spotify example, you have the customers, you have the suppliers, you have clients. It depends on who the change has an impact or an interest on. You have different stakeholders. You have the impact analysis. You have to analyze the potential consequences of a proposed change. When you make a change, what could happen? Could it be damaging? Could it be good? What could happen? The backup plan, the steps to revert to a change to its previous state in case of issues, in case of failures, like I was saying earlier. Imagine you change a piece of code at Spotify and it disrupts the entire system. What will you do to get back to the previous version? Do you have backups? Do you have a simple code that you can write? What do? You need a backup plan. A maintenance window is the period during which the change is scheduled to occur without causing disruption. So that maintenance window is also very important while you're scheduling the change and implementing the change. You have standard operating procedures, SOP. These are step-by-step instructions to define how the process should be performed. One, login. Two, perform the MFA. Three, write the code following this. Four, do this, etc., until you complete the change, all the different processes. You have allow lists. Allow lists are entities permitted to access a specific resource. Only the entities on the allow list are granted access. Others are automatically denied. It's just like if you have your event, you can have an allow list, right? If you have an allow list of guests, someone who is not on the allow list cannot get in, no matter the circumstances. On the other hand, you have deny lists, also called blacklists. This is the opposite. Everyone is allowed entry except those on the denied list. So specified entities are explicitly prohibited from accessing certain resources. The downtime is the period during which the system is unavailable to users. You want to minimize downtime generally. A service application restart is stopping and restarting a service to implement a change. Legacy systems are systems that have been in use for an extended period and are no longer supported. That's legacy or an old system. And dependencies are relationships between different systems that rely on each other to function properly. So sometimes you can have a server that is really dependent on the storage system or on another server, or systems are usually dependent to function properly. It's important during the change management process to update diagrams and documents to modify them to reflect the changes. And also version control is very important to record changes over time so that specific versions can be recalled later. So that if you make a mistake in one of the versions, in one of the files, you can easily roll back to a previous file. You can track modifications and go back to a more stable version while you're working on ameliorating the mistakes you made. So with version control, you can revert to a previous version if a change caused any issue. So that's an overview of the change management process with the important points. Approval, you need approval from an individual or a group responsible. It needs to impact the stakeholders. You need a backup plan in case something goes wrong. You need to follow standard operating procedures. You have allow lists of entities that can access resources and deny lists of entities that are explicitly disallowed to access resources. You want to minimize downtime. You want to ensure or verify the dependencies in your systems. And you want to keep appropriate and good versions such that if you make a mistake, you can easily roll back to a previous version.
All right, guys, was that interesting? If so, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on all our social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, to know more and be the first people to see our amazing content that we have for you. Thanks, guys. We're glad to have you.